Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiri Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 12. The expansions of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit, text 53 onwards. Ei shiksha sabha kare sabe mane ki kaila Acharya Gosai mane ananda pai. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction to Kamalakant, all present considered it to be meant for everyone. Thus Advaita Acharya was greatly pleased. Acharya abhipraya Prabhu matra bhuje, Prabhu gambhira vakya Acharya samujhe. Only Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the intentions of Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya appreciated the grave instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eita prastave ache bahuta vichar, grantha bahulya bhai nari likhibar. In this statement, there are many confidential considerations. I do not write of them all, fearing an unnecessary increase in the volume of the book. Actually, only Lord Chaitanya could understand the intentions of Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya appreciated the grave instructions of Lord Chaitanya. In fact, as we know, by the loud calling of Advaita Acharya, by his prayers, by his worship of Shaligram Shila with Ganges water and offering of Tulsi Devi, Lord Chaitanya appeared. But there is also prayers by Advaita Acharya, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood, only he could understand, and he unmanifested his pastimes. There is a letter that Advaita Acharya sent from Navdeep to Jagannath Puri when all the devotees would come. And it was a confidential line that he had written. Nobody could understand that. Only Mahaprabhu understood. So when it comes to that, I'll read that to you. Shri Yadu Nandanacharya Advaita Shakha Tare Shakha Upashakha Nai Haya Lekha. The fifth branch of Advaita Acharya was Shri Yadunandana Acharya, who had so many branches and sub-branches that it is impossible to write of them. Yadunandana Acharya was the official initiator, spiritual master of Raghunath Das Goswami. So official initiator. So in the beginning he was initiated by Yadunandana Acharya, but later he joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. In other words, when Raghunath Das Goswami was a householder, Yadunandana Acharya initiated him at home. Later, Raghunath Das Goswami took shelter of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. Vasudeva datte rate ho kripara bhajano sarva bhave ashriya jay Chaitanya charan. Shri Yadunandana Acharya was a student of Vasudeva Datta, and he received all his mercy. Therefore, he could accept Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet from all angles of vision as a supreme shelter. The Gaur Gunadesh Deepika describes that Vasudeva Datta was formerly Madhu Brata, a singer in Vrindavan. Bhagavata Acharya are Vishnu Dasa Acharya, Chakrapani Acharya are Ananta Acharya. Bhagavata Acharya, Vishnu Dasa Acharya, Chakrapani Acharya, and Ananta Acharya were the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th branches of Advaita Acharya. In his Anubhashya, Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Bhagavata Acharya was formerly among the followers of Advaita Acharya, but was later counted among the followers of Gadadhar Pandit. The 6th verse of Shakha Nirnayamrita, a book written by Yadunandan Das, states that Bhagavata Acharya compiled a famous book of the name Prem Tarangani. According to Gaur Gunadesh Deepika, Bhagavat Acharya formerly lived in Vrindavan as Shweta Manjari. Vishnudas Acharya was present during the Khetri Mahotsav. He went there with Achyutananda, as stated in Bhakti Ratnakar, 10th Tarang. Anantacharya was one of the 8 principal gopis. His former name was Sudevi. Okay, Sudevi came as Anantacharya. Although he was among Advaita Acharya's followers, he later became an important devotee of Gadadhar Goswami. Nandini Kamadev Chaitanya Das Durlabha Vishwasar Vanamali Das. Nandini Kamadev Chaitanya Das Durlabha Vishwas and Vanmali Das were the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th branches of Sri Advaita Acharya. Jagannath Kar Kar Bhavanath Hridyananda Sena Ar Das Bholanath. Jagannath Kar, Bhavanath Kar, Hridyananda Sen and Bholanath Das were the 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th branches of Advaita Acharya. Yadav Das, Vijay Das, Das Janardhan, Ananta Das, Kanu Pandit Das, Narayan. Yadav Das, Vijay Das, Janardhan Das, Ananta Das, Kanu Pandit and Narayan Das were the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd and 23rd and 24th branches of Advaita Acharya. Shrivas Pandit Brahmachari Haridas, Purushottam Brahmachari Hare Krishna Das. Shri Vatsa Pandit, Shri Vatsa Pandit, Haridas Brahmachari, Purushottam Brahmachari and Krishna Das were 25th, 26th, 27th and 28th branches of Advaita Acharya. Purushottam Panditar Raghunath, Vanamali Kavi Chandra Vaidyanatha. Purushottam Pandit, Raghunath, Vanmali Kavi Chandra and Vaidyanatha were the 29th, 30th, 31st and 32nd branches of Advaita Acharya. Lokanath Prabhu Ar Murari Pandita, Shri Hari Charan Ar Madhava Pandita. Loknath Pandit, Murari Pandit, Shri Hari Charan and Madhav Pandit were the 33rd, 34th, 35th and 36th branches of Advaita Acharya. Vijay Panditar Pandit Shri Ram, Asankhya Advaita Shaka Katilai Vinam. Vijay Pandit and Shri Ram Pandit were 2 important branches of Advaita Acharya. There are innumerable branches, but I am unable to mention them all. Shrivas Pandit was an incarnation of Narad Muni, and thus Shiva's younger brother, Shri Ram Pandit, is accepted as an incarnation of Parvat Muni, Narad Muni's most intimate friend. So Shri Ram Pandit was considered an important branch of Advaita Acharya. Mali Datta Jala Advaita Skanda Yugaya Sai Jale Jiye Shaka Fule Fal Pare. The Advaita Acharya branch received the water supplied by the original gardener. Prabhu ji, aap baar baar unmute ho rahe hain, Pal Prakash ji. In this way, the sub-branches were nourished and their fruits and flowers grew luxuriantly. The branches of Advaita Acharya, nourished by the water, Jala, supplied by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are to be considered bona fide Acharyas. As we have discussed herein before, the representatives of Advaita Acharya later divided into 2 groups: the bona fide branches of the Acharya's disciplic succession and the pretentious branches of Advaita Acharya. Those who followed the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu flourished, whereas others who are mentioned below in the 67th verse dried up. So this is a whole thing. We follow the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Simple. And then we can flourish. And we can also have little more branches, sub-branches. Ihar Madhya Mali, Pache Kona Shaka Gan, Namane Chaitanya Mali Durdeva Karam. After the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some of the branches, for unfortunate reasons, deviated from his path. Sujela Jiela Tare Namanila Kritagna Haila Tare Skanda Krudha Haila. Some branches did not accept the original trunk. They vitalized and maintained the entire tree. When they thus became ungrateful, the original trunk was angry at them. Krudhaya Skandatare Jalana Sanchare Jala Bhave Krisha Shaka Shukai Amare. Thus Lord Chaitanya did not sprinkle upon them the water of his mercy, and they gradually withered and died. Chaitanya Rahita Deha Shushkashta Shama Jive Tai Mrita Sai Maile Dandayam. A person without Krishna consciousness is no better than dry wood or a dead body. He is understood to be dead while living, and after death he is punishable by Yamaraj. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 3rd chapter, 29th verse, Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, tells his assistants what class of men they should bring before him. There he states, a person whose tongue never describes the qualities and holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose heart never throbs as it remembers Krishna and his lotus feet, and whose head never bows in obeisances to the Supreme Lord, must be brought before me for punishment. In other words, non-devotees are brought before Yamaraj for punishment, and thus material nature awards them various types of bodies. After death, which is Dehanta, a change of body, non-devotees are brought before Yamaraj for justice. By the judgment of Yamaraj, material nature gives them bodies suitable for the reactions of their past activities. This is a process of Dehanta, or transmigration of the self from one body to another. Krishna conscious devotees, however, are not subject to be judged by Yamaraj. For devotees, there is an open road as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. After giving up the body, Tyaktva Deham, or devotee never again has to accept another material body. For in a spiritual body, he goes back home, back to Godhead. The punishments of Yamaraj are meant for persons who are not Krishna conscious. So this is about fully Krishna conscious, but for devotees who are not fully Krishna conscious, and when they leave the body, they get the next body, but from wherever they can restart their bhakti, wherever they left before. But as Prabhupada is saying, they don't come under the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, or not under the punishment, for punishment purposes. But those who are not devotees, Yamaraj is really looking for them. Kevala e garna prati nahi ei danda chaitanya vimukha se ei tapashanda. Not only the misguided descendants of Advaita Acharya, but anyone who is against the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be considered an atheist, subject to be punished by Yamaraj. So anyone who is against the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or means anyone who is not in devotion service, because in South India now, Shri Sampradaya, they're not following the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they are also Vaishnavas and others also. Ki Pandit ki tapasvi ki bagrahiyati Chaitanya vimukha yai tare gati. Be he a learned scholar, a great ascetic, a successful householder, or a famous sannyasi, one who is against the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is destined to suffer the punishment meted out by Yamaraj. Yei Laila Shri Achyutanandera Mata Sei Acharera Gana Mahabhagavata. The descendants of Advaita Acharya who accepted the path of Sri Achyutananda were all great devotees. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrit Prabha Bhashya. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote Amrit Prabha Bhashya on Chaitanya Charitamrita commentary, and Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj wrote Anubhashya. He gives a short note. Sri Advaita Acharya is one of the important trunks of the Bhakti Kalpataru, or desire tree of devotion service. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a gardener, poured water on the root of the Bhakti tree and thus nourished all its trunks and branches. But nevertheless, under the spell of Maya, the most unfortunate condition of a living entity, some of the branches, not accepting the gardener who poured water on them, considered the trunk the only cause of the great Bhakti Kalpataru. In other words, the branches or descendants of Advaita Acharya who considered Advaita Acharya the original cause of the devotion creeper, and who thus neglected or disobeyed the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, deprived themselves of the effect of being watered and thus dried up and died. It is further to be understood that not only the misguided descendants of Advaita Acharya, but anyone who has no connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even if he is independently a great sannyasi, learned scholar, or ascetic, is like a dead branch of a tree. And now this Bhakti Vinod Thakur is writing this. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the who gave us this Yug Dharma, he has to be acknowledged and has to be appreciated and we have to have connection with Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, we cannot make any progress. This analysis by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, supporting the statements of Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, depicts the position of the present so-called Hindu religion, which being predominantly conducted by the Mayavad philosophy, has become a hodgepodge institution of various concocted ideas. So hodgepodge institution. Even here, even Sai Baba is also Bhagwan, and everybody is Bhagwan. We just follow anybody and everybody and think we'll go to the same destination. Mayavadis greatly fear the Krishna consciousness movement and accuse it of spoiling the Hindu religion because it accepts people from all parts of the world and all religious sects and scientifically engages them in the Deva Varunashram Dharma. As we have explained several times, however, we find no such word as Hindu in the Vedic literature. The word most probably came from Afghanistan, a predominantly Muslim country, and originally referred to a mountain pass in Afghanistan known as Hindu Kush, which is still a part of a trade route between India and various Muslim countries. Also, it is said that those who were living on eastern part of Sindhu River, they were called Sindhus, or slowly it became Hindus. No matter which process or which path one follows, whether it is Vaishnavism, Shakti, or Mayavad, or they follow Lord Shiva, they all became Hindu. In a way, yes, to stop from having more sects, it was good to have one. Okay, they all are Hindus, whether they're Buddhists or Jainis or anything, they're all Hindus. For those who don't even believe in God, they became Hindus. But that way, that they all became one, that's good, but then it becomes a hodgepodge. Nobody knows what they do. Or everything goes in the name of Hinduism. So whatever you're doing is also Hinduism, whatever I'm doing is also Hinduism. And it has become a hodgepodge, actually. So that is why the right knowledge, right philosophy is very, very important. And many times, many times, because we preach, we come across, and people only remember that verse of Kabir Das, man ka fer le, man ka hoye, something like that. that what is it you are chanting, and until your mind is transformed, how good is your chanting? Well, then you ask them, okay, how do you think my mind is going to get transformed? The mind is going to get controlled. And where does it say that once my mind is in control, then I should do chanting? How in the world my mind is going to get control to begin with? Well, process is chanting. So, this, they just don't, they just want to argue. People just argue. So many things. So you're doing a dhong. But no, it's not a dhong, it's a practice. Just like Sachin Tendulkar did not become the best batsman in the world in one day. He had to practice. So many years he practiced. Yes, he had some natural talent and obviously from previous lifetimes, good karma, mercy of the Lord, everything was there, but practice was also there. So can anybody say he was doing dhong in the beginning when he wasn't, he was just practicing, he wasn't the greatest batsman? Or even then, after he played, after he scored so many centuries, so many runs, still many times he just failed. So was he doing dhong? No. So similarly, in devotional service, we are practicing. Struggling, no doubt about it. Struggling, yes. So we are not perfect yet, fine, but we are practicing better than those who don't practice at all. But hard to argue. The actual Vedic system of religion is called Varnashram Dharma, as confirmed in the Vishnu Purana. The Vedic literature recommends that a human being follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Accepting the process of Varnashram Dharma will make a person's life successful because this will connect him with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the goal of human life. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is meant for all of humanity. Although human society has different sections or subdivisions, all human beings belong to one species, and therefore we accept that they all have the ability to understand their constitutional position in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms Jivera Swarupa Krishnera Nityapas. Every living entity is an eternal part, an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every living entity who attains a human form of life can understand the importance of his position and thus become eligible to become a devotee of Lord Krishna. We take it for granted, therefore, that all humanity should be educated in Krishna consciousness. Indeed, in all parts of the world, in every country where we preach the Sankirtan movement, we find that people very easily accept the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without hesitation. So people will, because living entity originally is Krishna conscious. We could be born in any part of the world, but soul is Krishna conscious originally. It's just so much of conditioning we have done that we have forgotten it. Although posing as great scholars, ascetics, householders, and swamis, the so-called followers of the Hindu religion are all useless, dried up branches of the Vedic religion. They are impotent, not important, impotent, no strength. They cannot do anything to spread the Vedic culture for the benefit of human society. The essence of the Vedic culture is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya instructed, Jara Dega Taraka hai Krishna Upadesh, Amara Agyaya Guru Haya Tarai Desh. One should simply instruct everyone he meets regarding the principles of Krishna Katha, as expressed in Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Srimad Bhagavatam. One who has no interest in Krishna Katha or the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like dry, useless wood with no living force. So one who has no interest in Krishna Katha is just dried up wood. ISKCON branch being directly watered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is becoming undoubtedly successful, whereas the disconnected branches of the so-called Hindu religion that are envious of ISKCON are drying up and dying. And that we can see actually. We can see that. Others, they follow in namesake only, and the younger generation definitely not following at all. So slowly, they all are drying up. So this we have to take up the instructions of Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have to follow it properly as Prabhupada has given, and then preach, give it to others. That's the whole process. Okay, I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, you all have safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.